Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Kent Justice, your host for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. And this week, the latest on a $2 billion project in Jacksonville with a partnership between developers, the city, and investors. Brian Mull is with us, the CEO of Gateway Jax. And this is, I was just showing him, hey, it's big news because it's even in the paper. We covered this as well. Gateway Jax gets okay for the downtown project. And we're talking about $500 million in mixed-use development was planned there. Yeah. Give us the updates here. We were talking about this about a year ago when we just started the podcast. We had you on, and we were talking about the possibilities of this. Tell us where and what's happening and why this is exciting.
So I think the last time that we spoke, we had just gone public with the fact that we had assembled all this property, about $2 billion, all said and done, over about 10 years. And we were already under design and speaking with the city about entitlements and incentives during that period of time. And frankly, we've spent the last year getting ready to start construction. So we're about ready to pull our permit on the first building, which is just over 200 units, about 24,000 square feet of retail, probably about 3 or 4 restaurants, full service restaurants, coffee shop. And that's just in the first building, and we'll have several buildings in this first phase, over 1,000. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. $500 million, 1,000 multifamily units, apartments likely in this first phase, and full service grocery store. We actually are very close to signing a high-end health club, which will be about 35,000 square feet, so pretty large format. And that's going to serve much more than just our project. That's going to, this is sort of a game changer for downtown.
Well, and let's talk about exactly where this is. If we say downtown, maybe people don't know where that is. If I say Pearl Street, well, tell us exactly where this is. And this is, how many blocks did I read? 35 square blocks or something like that?
Yeah, it's about 28 city blocks at full build out. This first phase, which will really be in kind of 2 separate subphases, but we'll have about 7 or 8 different blocks in this first phase. Kind of depends where you draw the line, because the idea is that this just keeps going over time. We call them phases, but in reality, the idea is that we'll be starting on a new project every few months, frankly. And we've got a lot of real estate, we've got a lot of ambition. And a lot of investment in this first phase. A lot of private capital, DLP Capital and JWB Real Estate Capital are our sponsors. They've really already put in tens of millions of dollars of their own equity to make this, and their investors' equity to make this happen. So the best way to get this going is to see the vision that we have, and then the idea is to capitalize on that investment over time.
So you mentioned ambition. This is an ambitious project, no kidding. So again, preparing for some of this, you mentioned 1,000 plus new residential units, 100,000 square feet in retail space, I'm reading.
Yeah.
Public spaces, outdoor dining. Tell me about this. I read something about a signature curbless festival street.
Yes.
And that you're close to the Porterhouse Mansion there.
Yeah, that's right. So this area is in the North Core, which is sort of a sub-neighborhood in downtown. There's the Sports and Entertainment District, La Villa, Brooklyn, some names that your viewers and listeners may have heard. So the North Core has not gotten quite as much of a spotlight, frankly, just because there hasn't been a lot of development there, but it is immediately adjacent to the Central Business District, just to the north of it. So close, in fact, that you can walk from Pearl Street, where this project is located, down to the water in 10 minutes or less. So it's not far away from the core of downtown. And in fact, it's about 2 blocks away from City Hall, just south of Beaver Street, State and Union, and then Beaver. So it's just south of Beaver. And so this Festival Street is in between Ashley and Beaver Street on Pearl Street, and we're calling it Pearl Square. A lot of the inspiration that I've taken from my background in development, and Larimer Square in Denver has always been a place that I've looked at as, it's decades old now at this point in time, when Lodo was still getting going in lower downtown in Denver. But I just loved how that one block in downtown Denver with all the energy, all of the bars and restaurants that opened up there, totally transformed downtown Denver. And we believe we're going to be able to do that with this project too. Pearl Street, though, as you mentioned, it's a long street, which is one of the reasons why I love it. It's a great name too, but it also connects historic Springfield and then comes into downtown, and it actually runs down to the Performing Arts Center and Riverfront Plaza. So it's a very long street that has an incredible history and is going to help sort of stitch these neighborhoods back together.
So I referenced it earlier. Last month, Jacksonville City Council approved a redevelopment and incentive package. So what is in the package? And I know DIA agreements are part of that as well.
Yeah, that's right. Just under $100 million total. 39 million of that are in completion grants, and then the balance is in what are called REV grants, but are essentially property tax abatements. And it's pretty important, I think, to point out a couple of things in the incentives package that we had approved and that we worked with the DIA and City Council and the Mayor's office. We don't get a dime back from the city until we build the projects, until all of our equity is out, until our financing and debt has gone into the project, and these projects get on the tax roll. That's when we're first eligible to get money back from the city. And that's important because once these projects with this investment get on the tax roll, that investment the city is going to reap, and we are, the city likes to look at their investment in a ratio. It's their return on investment. A 1.0 and above is a return for the city. Something less than that would be, in that calculation, the city coming out of pocket to fund something. We're very proud to say that we're well over a 1.0 ratio. So in other words, just with our project, the city is going to take in more tax revenue than they are paying out to us. And that doesn't take into account all of the other properties, neighborhoods around us that will see an enhanced value from what we're being able to do. So net, we think, we actually believe with our full development that will be in the billions of dollars of return on investment for the city.
Wow. Well, as I was reading through things, expectation, as I understand it, for this project is that it'll develop, or the development, I should say, will create like 2,700 permanent jobs, right?
Yeah.
That obviously has a pretty big impact. What are the other numbers that you would share with us about, hey, we think this is going to do X plus for the city of Jacksonville?
I think some of the tangible things are the jobs, certainly. And those are jobs really across the spectrum. Very well-paying jobs for for citizens that are living in Jacksonville today that want to be able to work down here. I gave you some of the stats about the number of units that we're creating, which is really exciting. There is a goal by the DIA to create 10,000 residential units, which equates to roughly 15,000 residents downtown. And this will get us well on our way. And then if we were to actually build out all $2 billion worth of real estate as residential, which is probably not likely, with there will be opportunities to do other types of things like maybe potentially some boutique office, hotels. We really believe in the opportunity of hotels downtown and other uses, cultural, educational uses, potentially, that this is going to totally transform downtown. But if we were to actually just build all those out as residential, it's about 5,000 units that we could build with that real estate.
When I talked earlier about, hey, this sounds ambitious, the feedback that you've gotten from people, obviously there's support among city council. Was that unanimous vote to greenlight that? That's impressive, right?
One abstention, it was 18-0.
How about that? Yeah. So I guess the question is, do we see it as ambitious because we're going, I don't really recognize people doing large scale like that before? Yeah. Have we just, as a people in Jacksonville, just not had a large enough vision? This has got to be exciting because I understand groundbreaking is maybe just in a few weeks in October. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, probably towards the end of October. I think one of the challenges about developing downtown is that there in general, there's a lot of small pieces of ownership, throughout the city, whether that be in historic buildings or in small parking lots. And when you're trying to transform an area, bring investment back to an area that might have been underinvested in for years, you really have to do it at scale, because there's a bit of a chicken or an egg right now situation in downtown where in order to get really great retail, like a grocery store or a health club, or really great food and beverage, restaurants, et cetera, coffee shops, you need people to live there. A lot of tenants that are going to take a risk on moving downtown, whether local or regional, they want to know that there's going to be a nighttime population, an early morning population, in addition to the office population that's downtown. So there's always been sort of a chicken or an egg, as I would call it. I've seen in other markets where I've worked too, where you really have to do something that's large enough to get the full service grocery store, to get the health club, to get all these restaurants to come and create this vision with you. And it's hard. It's not easy. It's not for the faint of heart, and it takes a lot of capital, which is one of the reasons why we're very thankful to be.
Mention some of those partners, the other people other groups that are involved in this project with you.
Yeah. So DLP Capital, they're based out of St. Augustine. They're a developer as well. They've developed all over the Southeast, not in downtown Jacksonville, and so they saw this as an opportunity. A really great investment as well. And so they have primarily individual investors all throughout the nation that invest in their funds. They also, in addition to equity, they also raise debt funds, and they recently opened a bank, DLP Bank. So it's sort of a full service capital firm, if you will. So that's one of our sponsors. The other sponsor is JWB Real Estate, which is a local group. Yeah. And JWB really started taking a chance in downtown a number of years ago. About 4 years ago, they started buying some smaller buildings. Sweet Pete's is a good example. That building is owned by JWB. And then more recently, they've bought a historic building called the Greenleaf Building, which is on Adams and Laura Street. And they're in the process right now of renovating that. And so it was that foresight that there was a good opportunity in downtown, that the bones were strong, that really was our foundation, if you will, to getting started. So they've also brought some capital to the table, a lot of local investors in their fund that's invested in us.
Well, a lot of fun for me to know that we talked about this many months ago, and now it's much closer, and we're going to be excited with you when you get to turn over some dirt here in the month of October. So thank you so much, Brian Mull, from the CEO of Gateway Jax. And thanks for joining us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition. Like, follow, or subscribe wherever you get your podcast. New episodes drop every Thursday at 9 a.m.